Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching Top 10's Net, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 countries that you should never visit. Travel is a wonderful thing. It broadens your mind, it allows you to explore new horizons, and it can totally end up with you getting killed in the super nastiest of ways. Yes, despite all the awesome benefits you'll often hear about going off the tourist track, the truth is that the tourist track is there for a reason, to stop starry-eyed dopes from getting killed. While it's definitely possible for a seasoned traveler, a war correspondent, or international super spy to visit all of the following, we strongly suggest that you stay away. Just a quick note before we get started, all these countries are places that would suck for a regular guy or gal to visit at the time of writing in 2017. They might be totally awesome 10 years from now, so please don't take our choices as a lifelong prohibition of visiting. Understood? Okay, well then let's begin. Number 10. Venezuela. If there was a competition for a country most likely to tip into civil war in the near future, the winner would probably be Venezuela. The Latin American socialist state boasts some of the most spectacular natural wonders on Earth, more history than you can shake a proverbial stick at, and a president who seems hell-bent on driving his nation into the ground. Soaring inflation has left essentials like medicine, toilet roll, and food all but unaffordable. The average Venezuelan lost £19 due to food shortages last year. There are rolling blackouts, paralyzing strikes, and pitched street battles in the capital, Caracas. Protesters and security forces have been responsible for 40 deaths in 2017 alone. Oh, and did we mention the additional violence? The murder rate is off the charts. As many as 28,875 people may have been homicide victims in 2015 from a population of 31.1 million. That would put modern-day Venezuela on a footing with Colombia at the height of its drug-fueled civil war. The list goes on. The US State Department has a hair-raising account of mass kidnappings, robbery with assault rifles, grenade attacks, and murderous criminal gangs targeting tourists. Despite all of this, though, Venezuela's crisis may yet be solved. If, or when it is, one of the most beautiful nations on Earth will once again be free for the rest of us to visit. Number 9. North Korea. Perhaps the most isolated state, North Korea, or the DPRK, is also one of the most likely to disappear in a cloud of burning ash and nuclear fallout. Since coming to power after his father's death, rogue dictator Kim Jong-un has tested 3 nuclear devices aimed at freaking out the international community. It has certainly worked. At the time of putting this video together, a war of words with the US seems in danger of spiraling into an actual war, one that could get very, very messy. But let's ignore all of that for a second. Even if no devastating war comes, visiting the DPRK still isn't one of the greatest ideas. The Kim regime directly profits from all outside visitors. That profit goes towards keeping a network of concentration camps in operation that the UN has called similar to Nazi Germany. Others have said that they're even worse. Crimes by one member of a family can result in everyone being interred and for their descendants and their descendants' descendants being worked to death. Tourism helps keep this decadent world ticking over. Then there's the issue of personal safety. The DPRK has a history of arresting US citizens at politically convenient times, even when they haven't committed any crimes. Given what we know about North Korean prisons, maybe it's better to stay away altogether. Number 8. El Salvador. Since it took over from Honduras in 2015, El Salvador has had the highest murder rate in the entire world. The pint-sized Central American nation, roughly the size of Wales, has been a killer's paradise for years. The murder rate in 2016 was 91 killings per 100,000 people, higher even than Venezuela. The capital, San Salvador, recorded 137,000 homicides per 100,000 people. This was down from a staggering 190 in 2015. By way of comparison, the global average homicide rate is a mere 6.2. In 2015, you were over 200 times more likely to be murdered in El Salvador than you were somewhere like Great Britain. Interestingly, as a foreigner, you're less likely to be targeted than a native. Most violence occurs between street gangs, and kidnappers tend to focus on snatching wealthy Salvadorians rather than gringo backpackers. Hence why we've put it up here at number 8, above countries with demonstrably lower murder rates. However, don't let its ranking lull you into a false sense of security. Notorious gangs like MS-13 have been known to target random buses and brutally slaughter everyone on board simply because the vehicle's owner refused to pay an extortion fee. Number 7. Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been a basket case for so long now that it's almost hard to believe it was once a laid-back highlight of the hippie trail between London and Melbourne. Since then, it has become synonymous with bad times and brutality. Even today, 15 years after the fall of the Taliban, this Texas-sized nation of 32.5 million people is still the sort of place you don't want to travel without making prior funeral arrangements. The causes are as familiar as they are depressing. Radical Islamic insurgents and mad warlords are running rampant over huge swaths of the country. The Taliban are experiencing a resurgence. Petty kidnappers are still addicted to the idea of whisking careless visitors away for ransom. In a show of strength, militants recently managed to storm an Afghan army hospital, slaughtering nearly 40 people. There are suicide bombings, homicides, and general nastiness galore. Many governments advise against eating in restaurants or staying in hotels in case you end your evening messily splattered across an area the size of a football pitch. At times, it can seem like peace will never return to Afghanistan. While we've no doubt things will one day settle down, that one day could be very far away indeed. Until it arrives, you'll just have to content yourselves with pictures of this tragically beautiful nation. Number 6. Iraq. Huge swaths of Iraq are still under the control of ISIS's monstrous caliphate. Even in areas under Iraqi government control, they've got a grim track record of attacking and killing hundreds. And you better believe they target foreigners. According to the UK government, non-Iraqis living or working in Baghdad are considered high-value targets. That means a heightened risk of death, kidnapping, or even worse. To be perfectly frank, traveling to Iraq at this time is more or less the equivalent of just lying down in a coffin and shouting at people to bury you. Even the stable, autonomous region of Iraqi Kurdistan frequently suffers car bombings and attacks that would be massive news in almost every other country in the world, but barely raise a flicker of an eyebrow there. What's especially heartbreaking about all of this is that Iraq was once a paradise. The fertile marshlands of the country are even believed to have been the location of the biblical Garden of Eden. To see it now is to see a region that has fallen a long, long way. Number 5. Central African Republic, CAR. Okay, this is the point where we move away from the countries you probably shouldn't visit and move on to the countries that you should definitely stay the hell away from under any circumstances. These countries all have no consular assistance for visiting Westerners, and most government websites warn against visiting them even if you absolutely have to. The reason? Well, extreme violence, or the threat of extreme violence accompanied by a breakdown of the social fabric so total it'd make Iraq look like a tourist's paradise. First on this list of terror, well, that's the Central African Republic. A nation nearly the size of Texas, CAR is home to a mere 4.9 million people, all of whom are desperate to kill one another. The population is divided between Christian and Muslim communities, both of whom take turns seizing power and trying to eliminate the other. In 2013, it was the turn of the Muslims to persecute, read kill, the Christians. In response, the Christians formed heavily armed anti-Bakala militias, and they're now the ones doing the persecuting. The whole situation is as volatile as a washing machine full of homebrewed nitroglycerin, and just as likely to explode at any moment. On top of all of this, CAR is an extremely poor, nearly undeveloped country, where getting around is next to impossible, and most of the country is covered in impenetrable jungle. So if everything does ignite when you're there, getting away is going to be very difficult indeed. Number 4. South Sudan. Another country that's helpfully close enough in size to Texas to allow easy comparisons, South Sudan is also the world's newest nation. In 2011, the Christian country split from the Muslim Sudan, declaring independence, and set up a capital in Juba. The wave of optimism this generated barely lasted 24 hours. The new government quickly fractured along ethnic and tribal lines and spiraled into a civil war that killed tens of thousands. Although the war is now over, South Sudan's peace remains so fragile that traveling there is like wrapping your body in bacon and jumping into a piranha tank and then inviting them to chew. Militias continue to terrify the country, with rival tribes using rape as a weapon to subdue their enemies. There are natural disasters to contend with as well. A miserable famine has also gripped the country since the start of the year, and tens of thousands are at risk of starvation. Things are so bad that the UN has called the famine, along with similar famines in Yemen, Somalia, and Nigeria, the worst humanitarian crisis since 1945. Oh, and if you were to visit, there's no guarantee you'd be able to leave. Last time a political crisis erupted, the borders were effectively sealed and the Juba airport closed. This trapped visitors inside an exploding war zone. Number 3. Libya. Right, so now we've gone beyond the countries you should definitely stay the hell away from under any circumstances, and entered a section we're just going to call Jesus, You've Got to Be Kidding Me. Without exception, these countries are in the grip of wars that have left no region untouched. Libya is merely the first of them. Once a sweltering North African country known for its stunning Roman ruins, Libya deposed its mad dictator in 2011 and tried to make it as a democracy. Instead, well, everything went to hell. There are at least 2 rival governments currently operating in the country backed by different superpowers. There are also an uncountable number of militias and rebel groups roaming the countryside. ISIS have even carved out a niche for themselves despite heavy airstrikes against their camps. Terror attacks, skirmishes, and deadly fighting are all just facts of daily life here. At least 6,000 have died in the continued fighting since 2014, on top of all of those who died in the initial 2011 uprising and its aftermath. Westerners have been kidnapped or killed with impunity. Famously, this included US Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens, the first American ambassador killed in the line of duty in 33 years. Luckily, though, there are signs that things may be changing in Libya for the better. On May 3, 2017, a diplomatic breakthrough was reached between rival governments. Hopefully, things in this region will soon be returning to something resembling normal. Number 2. Yemen. To look at pictures of Yemen's old capital of Old Sana'a these days is like looking at lost tales from the Arabian Nights. Yemen has always been poor, but it used to be justifiably recognized as one of the most picturesque, dreamlike places on the planet. It was a land of history, of great jagged mountains, ancient clifftop ruins, rocky deserts, and fertile valleys. Today, though, Yemen is a land of violent rebel groups, uncontrollable disorder, and Saudi airstrikes that have left thousands dead and tens of thousands hideously wounded. A strip of land below Saudi Arabia, roughly the size of metropolitan France, Yemen has been the focus of an intense bombing campaign by its bigger neighbor since late 2015. Rather than de-escalate the war and bring the Islamist rebels to justice, it sent the conflict into overdrive. January 2007 saw the 10,000th victim die, and large tracts of Sana'a's hypnotic old city reduced to dust amid heavy shelling. With no end to the conflict in sight, Yemen will likely remain off everyone's travel list for some time to come, which may be for the best. To see the wreck this once beautiful city has become would make any visitor's blood boil. Number 1. Syria. Well, what other country could it possibly be right now? Right now, Syria is the most dangerous place in the world. If you can go, don't. If you need to go, don't. If you're already there, well, get out as quickly and as safely as you can. That's the sort of place we're talking about here, a country where basic humanity has broken down and demons now run amok in human form, doing things too terrible for us to even mention in this video. If hell has a physical manifestation, then it's probably the front lines of Syria's awful conflict. Since 2011, rebels, regime forces, militias, terror groups, and insane jihadists like ISIS have been murdering one another in a humanitarian black hole that has left between 320,000 and 500,000 people dead. Torture, chemical weapons, genocide, you name it. If it exists and it's awful, it can be found in Syria. Perhaps the worst part is that there doesn't seem to be any easy way out. So many international actors meddling in the Syrian conflict that an easy solution seems impossible to find. Russia is bombing rebel territory, Turkey is bombing Kurdish positions, France, the US, and Britain are bombing ISIS, and the US recently bombed a regime airbase too. Iran and Saudi Arabia are meddling, Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda are involved. Maybe one day this intractable mess will be solved, but don't count on it happening anytime soon. So I won't ask if you enjoyed that video, but I hope you found it interesting and maybe informative. You probably weren't planning to visit any of those countries anyway, but if you were, now you know. If you enjoyed this video, do hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also, if you're looking for something else to watch, some of our other videos are over there on the right, and thank you for watching.